our lead story coming from an NFC AFC matchup in the Pacific Northwest as Mike White piloted the Jets. They touched down in Seattle for a date with Geno Smith, an ex-Jet, and the Seattle Seahawks. New York attempting to stay alive for a playoff spot. Now, if you didn't see this game, and chances are you didn't, it was not one of the glamour matchups in the NFL and a rather blah card of games. Geno Smith, the ex-Jet, had not one but two touchdown passes, and the Seahawks, they end up boat racing the Jets in this game, 23-6, the final. Seattle improves to 8-8, the definition of mediocrity, and they are very much alive in the thick of the NFC playoff race, and they take care of business. They'll be in the playoffs. The Jets, on the other hand, that's where the story is. They lost their fifth straight and have now been officially eliminated from the playoffs. Turn out the lights, the party's over. No playoff football this year for the Jets, and that continues a string of futile Jet teams, the NFL's longest playoff drought, now at 12 seasons, 12 years of no playoff football. So that means if you're 22 years old, the last time the Jets made the playoffs, you were 10 years old. If you're 12 years old, your entire life, the Jets have never made the playoffs. And that's where the story is. So let us discuss. We'll go right to the quarterback position. What do you make of Mike White's future under center after the El Stinko performance in Seattle? So I've got Supper, ground-penetrating radar, and Santa. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a vacation, which is what the Jets will be going on after this next weekend of football activity. Now, to kick off here, it was nice while it lasted. It was very short-lived, but for a couple of weeks, the legend of Mike White. Oh, he's so good. This guy's great. All the odds and ends. The best laid plans of mice men and NFL coaching staffs, and the upselling of Mike White in the New York media machine, and it resulted in Mike White being hyped up as the great messiah of the Jets. But the results, and ultimately it is a results-based institution, and Mike White did not produce. The talk was there, the talk, the walk was not, and for all intensive purposes, what we saw on Sunday to ring in the new year there for the Jets was Mike White's last supper as a relevant figure for the Jets suck. Southwest Airlines, as we mentioned earlier, a better week than Mike White quarterbacking the Jets. It was put up or shut up time, and Mike White went out there, did not move the needle. He whiffed, saw wing bada, and he swung right through the pitch. And that's it. Sucking at a time you cannot suck. A total famine performance. White finished the game, obviously with no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a meager 5.2 yards per pass as he was barely awake. Passer rating of 47.4, slightly better than if he had spiked each snap into the ground. You talk about not seizing the moment. And shut out in the second half as it was the definition of a futile performance against a statistically soft Seahawk defense. Who goofed? I've got to know. All right, furthermore, how are things looking right now for the Robert Saleh tenure as coach of the Jets? So let me preface this by saying, first of all, that Saleh is not on the hot seat, that he is not someone we have on our radar of being fired. That being said, yikes. You talk about a kick to the nuts, an emasculation situation for Robert Saleh. This Jets team got off to a 5-2 start. They were 6-3 going into the bye week. All right, week 10 bye week, they were getting ready to punch their ticket to the playoffs, and since then, they have gone AWOL. The Jets have played 7 games since the bye week, and if you look very closely, you can see they've been grounded right? And if you look at the ground penetrating radar, you see the sinkhole that opened up and swallowed up their worldly desires. The Jets, gang green, that's appropriate. They are like gangrene. You might have to chop off your leg. 1-6 since November 20th. A total franchise implosion. The offense has sucked. But, let's be fair here, the defense, not as good as advertised. Now, they haven't given up the outrageous point totals. However, Robert Saleh, the coach of the Jets, he's a big receipt guy. He likes those receipts. So let's pretend like we're at CVS where they have those long, endless receipts, right? They go on and on and on, over and over. Yeah. So we take a look. We take a look at those receipts for the Jets. And what do we find here? We find that a defense, and Robert Saleh is his pedigree, defensive coordinator. Not enough stops, not enough meaningful plays by the Jets defense. Now, the offense blows. But the defense did not pick it up, and you have to pick up the slack. If your offense is sputtering and you're supposedly a highfalutin defense, you got to make more plays. The Jets defense has been unable to get that done, and the last 3 weeks in particular, they have come apart at the seams. Gave up 346 yards to Geno Smith and the Seahawks, 365 yards to Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and 359 yards to Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. That's over the last 3 weeks. They've been averaging, giving up over 350 yards per game, the Jets defense. All right, parting shot. So here we are, the Jets not in the playoffs. Who is going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets in 2023? And you can spin the wheel of speculation, but using the process of elimination, the time-tested MALLER process of elimination, where you throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall and see which of the pasta sticks to the wall. We will guarantee, all right, between the devil and the deep blue sea, it will not be the Three Stooges, Mike White, Zach Wilson, and Joe Flacco. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. So they're out. All right, so they're done. The Jets are not going to be picking high enough to get a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the 2023 draft. So if you're thinking about hitting the reset button and drafting one of these guys, they're going to need heaven dust to get that done. As of now, gangrene, if you look at the way the draft sets up, they would have the 13th pick in the first round. So that means outside of a mega trade, they are not going to get Bryce Young of Alabama or C.J. Stroud of The Ohio State University or any of these other guys. So that means you have to turn the page and you go where? You pivot. You pivot, get down to business in the veteran quarterback market. And if you're into that kind of thing, business is booming in the veteran quarterback market based on the MALLER Big Board of Speculation. MALLER Big Board of Speculation. As many as 15 teams, almost half the NFL, will look to start with a clean slate at quarterback in 2023. And they will attempt to spin some yarn and get somebody else in there at quarterback. And supply is not impressive. It's kind of like my diet when I was morbidly obese. Quantity over quality. And there's a lot of quantity on the market. There's not a lot of quality. And if you look at the green team, Gang Green Santa list, Dear Santa, my wish list starts with Jimmy G. That's got to be the guy at the top. Jimmy Garoppolo would be the preferred choice, and he will be available assuming Brock Purdy continues to play the way that he has played, which is very similar to the way Garoppolo plays, where Purdy's not great, but he's not getting in the way. Very reminiscent of Garoppolo. So Garoppolo will be available, coming off another injury, but he's a plug-and-play quarterback. Just add water. It's quarterback helper. Not hamburger helper, quarterback helper with Jimmy Garoppolo until he gets hurt. There's a connection. You've got the backstory. It's nepotism in any business, but in sports, we know we love our sports, but nepotism is the king of the day. It rules, the almighty, all-powerful nepotism. And Robert Saleh has a past with Garoppolo from the 49ers. There are a cornucopia of quarterbacks who are available, and you can really pick your poison. Right? It's like, what poison do you want? How toxic would you like your cocktail? Other options outside of Garoppolo. You've got Carson Wentz, who did not miss a beat, picked up right where he left off with the 3 interceptions for the Washington, whatever they're called. Matty Ice, unless he retires. He can be yours if the price is right. You want Nick Foles, you can have him. Jared Goff, unlikely back as the starter with the Lions, although that's up in the air right now. Derek Carr. He unfollowed the Raiders. You could have Derek Carr. Ryan Tannehill, about done in Nashville. Even Tom Brady, likely playing his final games in Tampa. He'll change locations next year. So it's supply and demand. The supply is there. There's demand, but is there really demand for these quarterbacks? All of them have different levels of suckage. Scratched, deformed, warped. Some have filed for Chapter 11, like Derek Carr. They're flawed. They're broken down. Jimmy G's kryptonite is he's damaged. Gets hurt all the time. Now, you've got other guys like Carr and Wentz who just gag and we're supposed to be better than they are, and they can't climb the ladder. They're going the other way or staying where they are. The wild card in this is someone who appears to not be playing again in Baltimore this season, Lamar Jackson, who hasn't practiced in 8 weeks for the Ravens. It's been insane. He's missing pretty much half the season, I believe the number is. I read that the other day that he's missed. I believe it's half the year. It might be a little less than that, but it's getting close to the half-year mark where he's missed that amount of practice time with various injuries. He's not playing the games. Ravens lost last night. He's the wild card. And if the Ravens, depending on what franchise tag they give Lamar Jackson, if they don't give him the ultimate franchise tag, then Lamar would be able to break loose if he can convince, with some skullduggery, one of these other NFL teams to walk the line and give him the big, massive contract. But again, just to recap here, the Jets will have a new pilot, and it will be anyone but who they currently have, and Jimmy Garoppolo would be the preferred choice to have a stronghold on that team. And I would, in my crystal ball, as a distant relative of Nostradamus and friend of Nostradamus, we see a scenario where Joe Flacco's gone and Mike White's gone, and they bring in Garoppolo, and they try to upsell the fact that they'll have the best of both worlds, that they're going to methodically teach Zach Wilson, get his confidence back while Jimmy Garoppolo plays, and Wilson will be the insurance policy as Garoppolo presides over the Jets. That's how we see it playing out at this particular fork in the road.